The night sky was clear over the mountains when the radio telescope caught something unusual. A strange sound moved through the receivers, a signal that did not belong to any known star or planet. At first the scientists thought it was just interference, maybe the echo of satellites or the hum of space radiation. But as the hours passed, the sound became sharper. It was not random. It carried a pattern. The senior scientist, Dr. Harris, leaned over the monitor with wide eyes. His hands shook as he typed commands to filter the noise. The pattern grew into a sequence of tones, rising and falling in a way no natural signal could create. Every person in the observatory went silent. They all knew what it meant. They were not alone. The message came again and again, repeating with strange precision. It was not a cry for help, nor a warning, nor a call for trade. It was simply a set of numbers, flowing one after another, and at the end, a line of coordinates deep in the center of the galaxy. Dr. Harris replayed the signal until the early morning hours. The numbers never changed. At last he leaned back in his chair and whispered words that made the room colder than the mountain wind. "Someone is waiting for us." News spread faster than fire. Within days, the governments of Earth met in secret. The signal could not be hidden for long, but for now, they tried. Leaders argued in dark rooms. Some said ignore it. Others said answer back. But the scientists explained that it was not a conversation. The signal was one way, a door left open. Someone out there had already chosen the time and place. Earth had only one choice: to follow. Weeks later, a council was formed. The brightest engineers, soldiers, diplomats, and thinkers were chosen for the mission. They called the ship Horizon. It was not the largest vessel humans had built, but it was strong, fast, and ready for the unknown. Every nation contributed something. Engines from one side of the world. Shielding from another. Computers from a third. Humanity, for the first time, stood together with a single purpose. Yet beneath the unity, fear lingered. No one knew what waited at the end of those coordinates. The Horizon lifted from the launch platform in silence, its metal skin glowing in the morning sun. Families gathered to watch, their faces full of hope and dread. Some whispered prayers. Others stood stiff and proud, as if their children were soldiers marching to war. Across the planet, billions of eyes followed the ascent of the human ship into the dark sky. The voyage was long. Months stretched into years as the Horizon cut across the endless void. The crew lived between the stars, far from home, carrying with them the weight of humanity's future. They spoke little about fear, but each night they thought of it in silence. The coordinates dragged them deeper into regions no human probe had ever mapped. Strange lights flickered in the distance, the glow of stars far older than Earth itself. On the 381st day, the crew saw something that froze their breath. A colossal structure floated in the void, orbiting a dying red star. It was not a planet, not a moon, not anything nature could make. It was a station. Its black walls stretched across miles, lined with towers and lights like cities turned inside out. And around it, like a swarm of locusts, waited thousands of ships. Some were as small as the Horizon. Others were so large they could carry entire nations within their hulls. Each one carried weapons, engines, and designs that made human technology look like toys. The Horizon slowed. Every crew member felt the weight of unseen eyes pressing on them. They had arrived at the heart of the coordinates. For a long hour, nothing happened. Then, across the black canvas of space, a message reached them. It was not sound, not light, not anything familiar. It was a voice inside the mind, cold and heavy, echoing from everywhere at once. 3 words only. "We are waiting." The crew shivered, but no one spoke. Outside, the alien fleet held position, silent and still. Not a single weapon fired. Not a single ship moved closer. They only waited, as if measuring the humans' courage. Dr. Harris, now older and worn from the years aboard Horizon, looked at his crew. He knew they had crossed a line from which there was no return. For the first time in history, Humanity stood before something greater, older, and perhaps more dangerous than war itself. Harris whispered again, almost to himself. They called us here. And now, they want to see if we are ready. The horizon floated alone against the backdrop of the Empire, a single fragile ship facing thousands. Earth held its breath, though no one could hear. And in that silence, humanity's story with the stars truly began. The horizon drifted forward, its engines humming softly in the vast silence of space. Before it, the alien station loomed larger with every passing second, its endless walls glowing with strange lights that moved like rivers. The crew stared through the windows, unable to understand how such a thing could exist. It was not just a station, it was a city in the void, alive with energy older than Earth's entire history. Captain Reynolds stood at the front, his hands locked behind his back, his face hard but pale. His voice was steady when he spoke, though everyone could hear the weight behind it. We keep moving. No panic. We came to see who they are. The crew obeyed, but their hearts beat faster. Outside, thousands of alien ships shifted, closing the circle around horizon. Their designs were sharp, curved, and endless, each one carrying weapons that could tear the human vessel apart in seconds. But still, none fired. They only moved in silence, surrounding the humans as if to say, "You are ours now." A sound broke inside the ship, deep and vibrating like thunder rolling through metal. The crew covered their ears. The sound was not a warning. It was language. A voice formed, strange and heavy, but this time the computers of Horizon caught the signal. The machine struggled, symbols flashing across the screens, until finally words appeared in human letters. "You have arrived. Welcome to the Empire." The crew gasped. A translation, perfectly clear. Whoever sent it had prepared. They had studied humanity. Captain Reynolds pressed the comms. His words were simple. "We come in peace. We are here because of your signal." For a long moment, there was no answer. Then the voice came again, slower, colder. "Peace will be decided. You will enter." On the main screen, a massive gate opened in the wall of the station. It was wide enough for 100 ships to pass through, yet it opened only for Horizon. The captain gave the order. "Take us in." The ship moved carefully through the gate. Inside, the crew expected to see darkness, but instead they entered a chamber so vast it felt like a sky within metal walls. Countless platforms floated in the air, glowing bridges connecting towers, and thousands of alien beings stood in rows, waiting. The humans stared in disbelief. The chamber was a council hall, a throne of stars. The first to step forward was a tall creature with silver skin, its body thin like smoke but its eyes burning blue. It did not walk but glided, its voice filling the chamber. "Humans. You are young, yet you found the path. Few have reached this place. Fewer still remain." Behind the silver being, others moved. Some had wings, others had scales, some walked on 4 limbs, and others floated like orbs of fire. Hundreds of alien races filled the council, all watching the new arrivals. The humans were the smallest, the weakest, and the most unarmed in the room. Yet, strangely, no one attacked. The silence was heavy, broken only by the sound of alien breaths echoing through the chamber. Dr. Harris, standing beside the captain, whispered in awe. This is the Empire. A union of worlds." The silver being raised a hand, and its voice deepened. "Every new race must stand before us. Some came with weapons. They were destroyed. Some came begging for safety. They were forgotten. And now you come. What are you, humans? Do you fight? Do you beg? Or do you endure?" The words sent a chill through the crew. They were not invited as equals. They were summoned for judgment. The chamber's lights dimmed, and 1,000 alien eyes glowed in the shadows. The humans felt as if the entire galaxy was staring into their souls. Captain Reynolds swallowed hard but did not step back. "We are explorers. We came because you called us. We will listen. We will endure." The aliens did not speak. Instead, The silence stretched until the air itself seemed to tremble. At last, the silver being leaned closer, its blue eyes narrowing. "We will test this. And if you fail, humanity will be erased from the stars." The words struck like thunder. The crew of Horizon stood frozen, their hearts racing. They had crossed the galaxy only to find themselves standing in a court where one mistake could doom their entire species. Yet in that moment, none of them screamed. None begged. They stood still, their silence sharper than any weapon. The Empire watched, and for the first time in centuries, some of its members felt something they had not felt in generations. They felt uneasy. The humans, fragile and small, did not fall to their knees. They stood. And that was the beginning of the test. The chamber of the Empire fell silent after the silver being's warning. The crew of Horizon stood small beneath the weight of thousands of alien eyes. The captain's heart pounded, but his face remained calm. He knew that every movement, every breath, was being judged. The silver being lifted its long hand, and the walls of the chamber began to shift. Light poured down from the ceiling, and the floor beneath the humans dissolved into a platform that floated above an endless void. Strange shapes appeared around them, machines of alien design, glowing with cruel energy. They twisted into forms meant to frighten. War machines with cannons as long as buildings. Creatures with teeth larger than human bodies. The holograms were so real that some of the crew gasped, stepping back in fear. But Captain Reynolds did not move. Dr. Harris placed a hand on the railing to steady himself, whispering, "It's a test. They want to see us break." The silver being's voice echoed again, rolling through the void. "Every race is given trial. Every race is shown the face of its own fear. Many collapse. Many beg for mercy. Some try to fight and are crushed. Show us, humans. Show us what you are." The illusions grew worse. The crew suddenly heard screams echoing in the air, human voices, the cries of children, the roar of fire. Before them, they saw Earth itself burning, cities collapsing, oceans boiling under alien bombardment. Soldiers fell, families ran, the sky turned red with war. The crew gripped the railings, their eyes wide, their hearts breaking at the sight of their home world destroyed before their eyes. A young officer clenched his fists, his voice shaking. "This is not real. It can't be real." The captain's voice was firm. "Hold the line. Do not give them fear." The aliens watched closely. Other species had screamed at this stage, begging the council to stop. Some had fallen to their knees. Some had turned their weapons against the illusions, wasting their strength on shadows. But the humans only stood, breathing heavily, their faces pale but steady. The images shifted again. Now the crew saw their families on the station itself, standing in the hands of alien warriors, weapons at their throats. The voices whispered inside their minds, cruel and sharp. "Your people are weak. They cannot survive. You cannot save them. Yield." The young officer's eyes watered as he saw his mother's face among the illusions, crying for help. His knees bent as if he might fall, but the captain's hand touched his shoulder, steadying him. "It is a lie. Do not bow. We endure." The council grew restless. The aliens had seen many trials before. They knew the usual path: panic, surrender, collapse. But the humans did not collapse. They stood with clenched jaws and silent eyes, refusing to scream. Even when tears fell down their cheeks, they made no sound. The silver being leaned forward, its blue fire eyes glowing brighter. "Why do you not cry out? Why do you not fight? Do you not feel fear?" The captain finally spoke. His voice was calm, though the air around him trembled. "We feel fear. But fear is not the master of humans. We do not run. We do not beg. We endure." The silence that followed was heavier than the illusions. Some of the council shifted uncomfortably, their scales rattling, their wings folding tight. They whispered in voices like thunder. "They resist too easily. They hide something. No young race should have such control." Dr. Harris, though his heart raced, understood something in that moment. The test was not about strength of weapons. It was about strength of spirit. The Empire was looking for weakness. They wanted to see who would break. Humanity's silence was not weakness. It was a weapon sharper than war. The illusions reached their final stage. The floor beneath the humans crumbled into nothing, and the crew felt as if they were falling into endless darkness. Fire surrounded them, shadows reached for them, voices screamed in their ears. It was chaos, pure and overwhelming, enough to shatter the mind. Yet even as their hearts raced and sweat rolled down their faces, not a single human begged. Not a single human called for mercy. They stood in silence, their bodies trembling but their eyes steady. At last, the illusions faded. The floor reformed. The chamber lights returned. The horrors vanished as quickly as they had come. The silver being studied the humans with eyes that burned colder than ice. "Strange," it whispered. "Very strange." Others broke in moments. "You did not break." Captain Reynolds lifted his chin. "We came here to face you. And we are still standing." The council erupted in whispers. Some voices carried anger, others carried fear. The humans were weak in body, fragile in technology, yet they had endured what even stronger species had not. To the Empire, this was not natural. It was dangerous. The silver being raised its hand once more, silencing the council. Its gaze burned into the humans like fire through glass. "The test is not over. This was only the beginning. You will face more. And if you endure, then the galaxy itself will fear what you might become." The humans stood silently, their faces hard, their fear buried deep within. They had passed the first trial, but the true danger was only beginning. The chamber grew dark once more after the first trial ended. The humans stood in silence, their bodies tense, their minds racing with what they had seen. The illusions had felt real, too real, and even though they knew it was a test, the memories of Earth burning and families screaming still clung to them like smoke. The Council of Aliens whispered in 100 different voices, their languages colliding in the vast chamber. Some called the humans dangerous, others called them fools, and a few said nothing at all, watching closely with unblinking eyes. The silver being raised its hand, and the voices stopped at once. Its glowing eyes burned brighter as it spoke. "The trial is not finished. You endured fear. Now you must endure silence. Not for minutes. Not for hours. But for days." A sudden shift pulled the Horizon crew away. The platform beneath their feet moved, carrying them into a sealed chamber made of smooth black stone. No doors. No windows. No light. Only darkness, endless and suffocating. The air was thin and dry, heavy with strange energy that pressed against their chests. The crew exchanged nervous glances, but no one spoke. Captain Reynolds finally whispered, his voice calm and steady, "They want to see if we break. Hold the line. We say nothing unless we must." The hours dragged on. At first the humans tried to count the time, tapping their boots against the floor, whispering numbers under their breath. But soon, the sense of hours and minutes faded. The chamber gave them nothing to measure, no sunrise, no heartbeat of the ship, no sound except their own breathing. Darkness swallowed all. For some, the silence became unbearable. A young navigator shook as sweat ran down his face. Maybe they left us here to die," he muttered. Dr. Harris placed a hand on his shoulder. "No. They are watching. They want to see how long we can last. Do not give them what they want." His voice was soft but firm, enough to steady the younger man. The silence pressed harder. Illusions returned, though faint and shadowy this time. Shapes of monsters appeared at the edge of vision, then vanished. The sound of footsteps echoed, though no one was there. Whispers crept into their ears, words of doubt, of betrayal, of despair. But the humans remained still. They breathed slowly, their bodies stiff, their faces calm. It was not easy. Each of them felt fear rising in their chest like fire. But they remembered the captain's words, "Fear is not the master of humans." Days passed, or what felt like days. Hunger gnawed at them, thirst cracked their lips, but no one spoke of surrender. Some sat cross-legged, eyes closed as if in meditation. Others stood motionless, staring into the dark. They drew strength from one another, silent and stubborn. And still, the aliens waited. In the council chamber, the Empire's rulers watched through hidden eyes. Their whispers grew restless. One spoke with a voice like grinding stone. They should have collapsed already. Another hissed, its wings trembling. No young species has ever endured this long. They are hiding something. No silence can last without strength. The silver being only watched, its face unreadable. It remembered hundreds of trials across the centuries. Races that had screamed within hours. Races that had begged for release after only one night. Yet these humans sat quietly, their faces pale, their bodies tired, but their eyes unbroken. They refused to give the Empire the sound of their weakness. Inside the chamber, Captain Reynolds felt his strength fading. His body ached, his throat was dry, his mind heavy with shadows. But when he looked at his crew, he saw them still holding the line. He whispered, barely louder than breath, "We endure." Those two words passed from one to another, a chain of quiet resolve. The navigator repeated them. Then the engineer. Then Dr. Harris. They spoke not to the Empire, but to each other. The silence became their shield. On the fifth day, if it was truly the fifth, the walls of the chamber finally dissolved. Blinding light poured in, and the humans shielded their eyes. They stood on the platform once more, before the Council of the Empire. The aliens leaned forward, their eyes burning with disbelief. The silver being's voice thundered across the hall. "Impossible. You did not break. You did not cry out. You did not yield. You are calm." The word calm echoed through the chamber like a weapon. Other races had tried to fight, their fury spent against illusions. Others had collapsed, their begging a mark of weakness. But the humans had done nothing but wait in silence, their calm more frightening than violence. An alien warlord slammed a clawed fist against the railing. "This cannot be allowed. They are dangerous. They are unstable. Their silence hides weapons we cannot see." Another hissed, "No species can face fear and hunger without breaking. Unless they are planning something greater." The silver being studied the crew with burning eyes. "You are unlike any I have seen. Your calm is not peace. Your calm is not surrender. Your calm is threat." Captain Reynolds did not move. His voice was steady when he answered. "We came to stand before you. We are here still." The council whispered louder, fear growing in their voices. For the first time in centuries, the Empire felt something strange rising in its heart. It was not respect. It was not hatred. It was unease. Humanity's silence had become more terrifying than war. And the trials were far from over. The humans were returned to their ship, but the silence of the horizon felt heavier than ever. They had endured the trials, yet no one knew what it truly meant. The crew sat quietly in the command deck, their eyes still adjusting from days of darkness. Captain Reynolds looked at each of them and spoke softly. "We are still alive. That means something. But this is not the end. They are watching us closer than ever." Dr. Harris nodded, though his face was pale. "They do not understand us. That frightens them." Outside the walls of the station, the Empire whispered. In chambers hidden from human eyes, the rulers of alien races debated what they had seen. The council was divided. One alien with scales of gold spoke sharply. "They are too dangerous. If they can endure fear without breaking, if they can remain silent in the face of hunger, what else are they hiding? A species like that could one day rise against us all." Another, a creature with wings like black sails, hissed in reply. "Perhaps they are not strong at all. Perhaps their silence is only a trick. Perhaps they are too simple to understand what they face." But a third alien, older than both, spoke in a slow and rumbling voice. No. I watched their eyes. They felt fear. They felt hunger. But they did not surrender to it. This is not weakness. This is not ignorance. This is choice. The chamber fell silent. Many feared choice more than any weapon, because choice meant control. Choice meant humanity could bend under pressure but not break. The silver being who had led the trials finally rose, its burning eyes sweeping over the council. They are calm. But their calm is not peace. It is resistance. It is defiance. They are like a storm hidden beneath still waters. If they ever rise, they will not warn us. They will simply strike. The words spread like fire. Across the Empire's many sectors, rumors began. Whispers moved from ship to ship, from world to world. Stories of the humans who had faced the trials without crying out. Some said humans were machines in flesh, unfeeling and unnatural. Others said they were mad, too reckless to fear death. And still others believed they carried a power hidden from sight, a weapon beyond imagination. The crew of the Horizon did not know of these whispers, but they felt the weight of alien eyes upon them wherever they walked. Guards followed their every step. Strange creatures stared from the shadows of the station halls. The air itself seemed thicker, heavier, as if the station had become a cage. One night, as the humans sat together in the ship's mess hall, the young navigator whispered, "They are afraid of us." The words hung in the air, too bold to say but impossible to deny. Dr. Harris leaned closer, his voice calm but sharp. "Yes. And fear is dangerous. Fear makes them think of war." Captain Reynolds kept his eyes fixed on the window where the alien fleet drifted silently in the stars. "Then we give them no reason. We stay silent. We endure." Meanwhile, the council grew more restless. The golden-scaled alien struck the floor with its tail, sending echoes through the chamber. "We should crush them now, before they return to their world. Before their silence grows into power." Others shouted in agreement, their voices filling the air like storms. But another group resisted. A tall alien with a crystal body raised its hand. "To destroy them without cause will only make them legend. The galaxy will remember them not as weak, but as martyrs. If they are feared now, imagine how they will be feared if we kill them unjustly." The debate raged on, louder and louder, until the chamber shook with their voices. But beneath all the noise, one truth spread like poison through the Empire. The humans had done nothing, no weapons, no attacks, no threats. And yet the strongest empire in the galaxy was afraid of them. The silver being spoke again, ending the storm of voices. "The humans are dangerous, not because of what they do, but because of what they do not do. We must decide carefully. If we destroy them, we may awaken the very storm we fear. If we let them live, we may face it later. Either path is risk." On the horizon, the humans prepared for whatever would come next. They cleaned their uniforms, repaired their ship, and spoke only in quiet tones. None admitted it aloud, but all of them felt the shift. Something had changed. The Empire, which once looked untouchable, was no longer only a council of gods. It was a council of frightened rulers, whispering like shadows in the dark. And in that moment, humanity held a weapon far greater than they had ever built, the power of being feared without lifting a hand. The whispers of the Empire grew louder each day, and the storm was only beginning. The days aboard the Horizon grew heavier as the Empire's eyes pressed harder against the humans. What began as whispers had now turned into action. The humans were no longer simply watched. They were tested again and again, but this time the trials were sharper, crueler, and designed to tear them apart from within. The first trial had been fear. The second had been silence. Now came something different. The aliens wanted to break their minds. One morning, the crew awoke to alarms. The lights of the Horizon flickered, and the walls around them twisted as if the ship itself had been swallowed by a storm. Outside the windows, they saw Earth again, but this time, not burning. It was whole, alive, shining beneath blue skies. Families walked the streets. Children played in the parks. It was home, so real that the navigator fell to his knees with tears in his eyes. "We're back," he whispered. "We've made it back." But Captain Reynolds knew better. His voice cut through the illusion. "It's a lie. Don't believe it." The vision grew stronger, tempting them. They heard the laughter of loved ones, smelled the scent of fresh rain, even felt the warmth of sunlight on their skin. For a moment, even the captain's heart trembled. What if it was real? What if the Empire had spared them, and this was their reward? Dr. Harris spoke softly, almost to himself. "This is not Earth. This is their trick. They want us to choose comfort over truth." The illusion cracked for a second, as if the Empire had heard his words. The skies of Earth darkened, and the voices of family turned into cries of anger. Their loved ones pointed at them with accusing eyes. "Why did you leave us? Why did you bring danger to us? You abandoned us to the stars." The crew staggered back, their chests heavy with guilt. The young officer shouted, "Stop it! Stop it now!" His voice echoed through the chamber, and instantly the vision shattered. The humans were back in the black stone chamber, gasping for air. The silver being's voice roared around them. "You resist. You deny what is given. Why? You could accept the lie and be at peace. Why do you suffer instead?" Captain Reynolds stood tall, his voice steady though his throat was dry. "Because humans do not fear truth. Even when it hurts, we face it." The aliens murmured, their voices sharp and restless. No other species had resisted so long. Most would have collapsed under the weight of guilt and false comfort. But the humans had chosen pain over peace, reality over illusion. The Empire grew unsettled. The next day, the chamber changed again. This time, the humans stood on a battlefield. Alien armies surrounded them, weapons aimed, ready to fire. The sky was red with explosions, the ground scorched and broken. The humans had no weapons, no armor, only their bodies and their will. The armies charged, roaring with voices that shook the ground. The crew braced themselves, but the captain raised his hand. "Stand still. Do not move." The wave of soldiers grew closer, blades shining, claws reaching. The young navigator flinched, his body screaming to run, but still he obeyed. The army crashed down upon them, and vanished like smoke. The humans were unharmed. The silence after the illusion was worse than the roar of battle. The silver being's voice returned, sharper now. "You do not fight. You do not flee. You do not yield. What are you?" No one answered. The crew stood in silence, their calm more powerful than any words. The aliens whispered, fear rising among them. "They are unnatural. They do not break. They will never break." The illusions grew crueler as the days stretched on. The crew saw their worst fears again and again. Fire, death, betrayal, endless war. They heard voices begging them to stop, to surrender, to give in. But no matter how heavy the trials became, the humans whispered the same words to each other. "Hold the line." It became their shield, their anchor, their weapon. One night, as they lay in silence, the young officer whispered to the captain, "How much longer can we last?" The captain did not look at him. His eyes were fixed on the black ceiling. "As long as we must. If they cannot break us now, they never will." In the council chamber, the debates turned into shouting wars. The golden-scaled alien demanded destruction. "They are too dangerous. Their silence hides more than weapons. It hides a storm that will one day destroy us all." Others argued that killing humans would only prove their strength to the galaxy. The silver being listened to all sides, but inside, even it felt something unusual. Fear. Not fear of human weapons, not fear of their ships, but fear of what they might become. For the first time in centuries, the Empire faced a species that did not bow, did not fight, and did not shatter. The breaking point had come, but it was not the humans who stood at the edge. It was the Empire itself. The council chamber shook with argument as the trials dragged on. The humans had endured every test. They had faced fear, hunger, silence, and guilt. They had stood before armies, heard the screams of their loved ones, and seen their world burn, yet they had not broken. Their silence was a shield, their calm a weapon, and the Empire could not understand it. In private halls, alien rulers gathered in secret meetings. Some wanted war. Some wanted peace. But none could deny the truth. The humans frightened them more than any enemy had in centuries. The golden-scaled warlord struck its tail against the floor with rage. They will rise. Not today, not tomorrow, but one day they will. We must crush them now, before they become too strong. Across the chamber, the crystal-bodied alien shook its head, its voice echoing like glass. Destroy them, and we will only make them martyrs. Their silence will become legend. Every world will whisper their name. The silver being stood apart from the others, its blue fire eyes fixed on the small human ship that floated in the hangar. They have no weapons, no armies, no fleets. And yet, even we feel unease in their presence. If they can cause fear now, what will they become in a century? The debate spread across the Empire. On distant worlds, soldiers whispered of the strange humans who did not scream. On trading stations, merchants spoke of a species that endured terror without bowing. Even in the hidden corners of the Empire, slaves whispered that perhaps a new power had arrived, one that might one day challenge their masters. The humans aboard the horizon knew little of these whispers, but they felt the tension growing around them. Guards no longer looked at them with contempt but with caution. Some aliens kept their distance, avoiding their eyes as if human calm was a disease that might spread. The crew remained quiet, speaking only when needed, always steady, always watchful. Captain Reynolds gathered his crew one evening in the mess hall. His voice was low but firm. They are waiting for us to break, but we will not. Our silence is our strength. Let them wonder. Let them fear what they do not see. Dr. Harris nodded, his face drawn but sharp. It is already working. They do not know how to fight something that refuses to fight back. Outside, the council grew more desperate. The golden-scaled warlord called for immediate destruction. We cannot risk it. Their silence is more dangerous than any fleet. If they remain, they will infect others with their defiance. A winged alien hissed in agreement. If they can resist the trials, they can resist us. They must not leave this station alive. But again, the crystal-bodied alien resisted. If you kill them now, you will confirm their power. You will prove that even the great Empire fears them. The silver being's voice thundered, silencing all. Then what do you suggest? If they cannot be broken, if they cannot be killed, then what are they? No one answered. Silence filled the chamber like a shadow. For the first time in centuries, the Empire could not agree. They faced not an enemy, but a mirror that showed their own fear. And the more they debated, the stronger the humans became without lifting a hand. On the horizon, the crew noticed a shift. The illusions had stopped. No more tests, no more false battles. Instead, there was only silence. The captain did not relax. He knew silence was not peace. It was preparation. One night, the young officer whispered as they stared out at the endless alien fleet. Why do they fear us? We have nothing. We are just one ship. Dr. Harris answered softly. Because we are not afraid of them. And to rulers built on fear, that is more dangerous than war. The words lingered in the air. None of them spoke after that. The Empire's rulers met again in secret, their voices low, their eyes shifting nervously. If their calm is this dangerous now, one whispered, imagine what it will be when they spread among the stars. Another replied, perhaps it is already too late. Perhaps the storm has already begun. The silver being closed its eyes, the fire within them flickering like dying flames. The humans have given us no weapon, no war, no act of violence. And yet we are afraid. That alone is enough to change everything. The council fell into silence, each ruler trapped in their own unease. For the first time, the greatest empire in the galaxy felt a shadow of doubt. It was not because of armies or weapons. It was because of humanity's calm. A calm that whispered louder than war. A calm that promised one truth: if humans were this terrifying in peace, what would they be in war? The chamber of the Empire was silent. The rulers who had once shouted and demanded now sat in uneasy stillness. For weeks they had tried to break the humans. For weeks they had thrown fear, illusions, and despair at them. But the humans did not scream, did not kneel, and did not surrender. They had stood with calm faces and steady hearts, and now the greatest rulers in the galaxy whispered among themselves like frightened children. Captain Reynolds and his crew remained aboard the Horizon, waiting. They did not know what fate would come, but they understood one thing clearly: their calm had become their weapon. Around them, the aliens no longer looked with arrogance but with caution. The guards who once sneered now avoided eye contact. The whispers of fear spread faster than any fleet could travel. On distant worlds, slaves told stories of humans who faced the trials and did not break. Traders carried the tale to the far corners of the galaxy. The words changed as they traveled, but the meaning stayed the same. Humanity had walked into the heart of the Empire and stood unshaken. In the council chamber, the golden-scaled warlord slammed its fist down, its voice sharp with fury. This cannot stand. If we release them, we release terror into the galaxy. Every race will look to them as proof that the Empire is not unbreakable. The crystal-bodied alien's voice rang back, smooth but firm. If we destroy them, their story will grow stronger. Their silence will become legend. And legends cannot be killed. The silver being, leader of the council, spoke at last. Perhaps the choice has already been made. They are already legend. Those words settled over the council like a shadow. No vote was called, no sentence given. Instead, for the first time in centuries, the Empire hesitated. On the horizon, the humans were summoned. They entered the vast black chamber where the rulers of countless worlds stared down at them. Captain Reynolds stepped forward, his crew at his side, calm and silent as always. The silver being's voice filled the air. You came to us without weapons, yet you have struck a wound deeper than war. You have shown us fear without fire, strength without violence. Tell us, human captain, what do you want? The chamber held its breath. For a long moment, Reynolds said nothing. Then his voice rose, steady and clear. We want nothing. We want no throne, no empire, no war. We only want to live as we choose. That is enough. The aliens shifted uneasily. To them, such words made no sense. Every empire wanted power. Every race wanted dominance. But these humans, these strange, silent creatures, wanted only freedom. And that made them more dangerous than any conqueror. The council ended without a verdict. The humans were not destroyed, nor were they welcomed. Instead, the horizon was released into the stars. No escort, no chains, no attack. Just silence. As the ship drifted away, the crew looked back at the endless fleets of the Empire, knowing they had survived something no other species could. Dr. Harris whispered as Earth stars came into view on their charts. They let us go. Captain Reynolds shook his head slowly. No. They didn't let us go. They're waiting. Watching. But it doesn't matter. We showed them what humans are. The crew fell quiet, each lost in thought. None of them realized how far their story was already spreading. Across the galaxy, in dark taverns and hidden slave camps, voices whispered, "Have you heard of the humans? They faced the trials of the Empire and did not break." In marketplaces, traders leaned close and said, "The humans stared down the rulers and walked away alive." And in the courts of other empires, rulers frowned and wondered if the humans were a spark that could one day ignite a fire across the stars. The humans did not know it yet, but they had become more than a crew. They had become a legend. A warning. A promise. The galaxy now carried their name with fear and with hope. Some would fear humanity's calm, wondering what storms hid behind it. Others would hope, believing perhaps a new force had risen that could stand against tyranny. And on the horizon, the crew continued their voyage home, unaware that their silence had already changed the fate of worlds. For in the end, the Empire had not broken them. Instead, it had revealed to the galaxy the most terrifying truth of all: humans did not need to fight to be feared. Their calm was the storm, and their silence was louder than war.